What 3 exercises do you use the most with knee pain clients? This is a bit of an open-ended question, but let's go early stage knee rehab. So they come in and they're really struggling to bend their knee, they're struggling to do a lot of things, or you're struggling to do a lot of things with your knee. Number one is to reduce pain. Now the best way to do that with knee pain is what's called isometric exercises. All an isometric exercise is holding a position for a period of time. So it's an exercise where you're not actively moving your knee. So 2 good options for this would be a single leg wall sit, number 1. And this is really good because you can scale it depending on how painful your knee is and how much strength you have. So the higher up the wall you start, the easier the exercise is. And then the lower down you move, the further down you move the wall, down on the wall, the harder the exercise is because you're getting more and more knee bend. I would go through 2 to 3 sets of a 45-second hold on each leg. Another good option for this, if you're in a gym, you can just swap this out for a leg extension hold on a leg extension machine. So you jump on a leg extension machine, and from that top position where your leg is straight, you just let your knee bend slightly and you just hold it where you're comfortable. This is going to get some blood flow into the knee. It's also going to just reduce a lot of the pain. Another good isometric exercise that you can use is a foam roller bridge. A little bit more tricky to go through on the stream, but essentially you lie on your back, you have your knees bent, your feet go flat on a foam roller, you gently tuck your pelvis so your lower back is flat into the floor, you lift your hips about 1 inch off the floor, and you're just holding this position. Your hamstrings and calves are working really, really hard. Again, 2 to 3 sets of 45 seconds. So let's class that as one type of exercise. The second one would be tibial rotation. So your tibia is your shin bone, and your shin bone is obviously from your knee down to your ankle. Now, a lot of people with knee pain have a bit of a blocked up tibia, and the tibia or the shin bone isn't able to internally rotate, which it should do as a normal function of the body as you bend your knee, and then externally rotate as you straighten your knee. So all you're going to do, you just sit down with your back against a wall and you block your femur, which is the bone above your tibia. So you pop your hands just above your knee so that bone doesn't move. And then what you very gently do with your heel on the floor is you try externally rotate your heel bone very, very gently, and then you internally rotate your shin bone very, very gently, and you run through 1 to 2 sets of 20 reps. This is a tricky exercise again to demonstrate, but you want to think, I'm gently going to move my shin bone in and out, and just moving it again will get blood flow into the area and help reduce a lot of your knee pain. That's number 2. Number 3 is probably going to be some sort of hinging exercise where we're opening up the back of the hips, so getting some length through your glutes. Best one for this would be something like a kickstand hinge. So I can demo this kind of on the live stream, but I'm not going to because the camera isn't set up correctly, but I can chat you through it. So essentially all you do is you stand on one leg with a slight knee bend, you pop your back leg down for a little bit of support, maintaining the bend on that front leg, and then you hinge. So it's a little bit like a staggered stance RDL. You hinge, your hips go back, your weight stays forward over that front leg. You go as deep as you can while maintaining a neutral spine. You hold it in that bottom position for a few seconds, and then you stand back up. So the kind of goal with that is you're getting a stretch in the glute as you come down and as you're holding it in that bottom position, and then you're just squeezing your glutes to come back up. Again, usually 2 to 3 sets for 5 reps is what I usually program for that. Next question. Sorry those weren't amazing demonstrations, but I can't really demo them on the stream. How would you structure a gym session around knee pain? So the first thing would be those isometric exercises, so either a wall sit or a leg extension, and then a bit of tibial rotation. So already talked about that. And then depending on the person, it would be focusing on areas of weakness, other muscle groups, other movements that people neglect, generally with the lower body, that could be affecting their knee pain. So a big one is calves. A lot of people don't train their calves heavy enough. So something like a straight knee calf raise is a really good option, only going from a stretch position to a neutral position. So if we imagine a stretch position, imagine this is your heel. this is your heel and it's coming off the edge of a plate. That's the stretch position bottom. Neutral is only there. It's not all the way up to the top. So it's like kind of like a half rep. The reason I do these with people is because that stretch to neutral position is the most difficult part of the calf raise, and you can actually build a lot more strength just training that. So you'd set up on the edge of a plate, half of your foot on, half of it off, hold on to something for support. And the easiest way to overload this is either with a barbell on your back or a dip belt. And I would go for 3 sets of 5 reps on each side, heavy. And I would do this once a week. And then your other calf raise variation could be like a bent knee calf raise. So if you've got a seated calf raise machine, that's ideal. Again, on the single leg, 3 sets of 5 reps on each side to target a slightly different calf muscle. Other weaknesses that a lot of people have when it comes to knee pain would be hip strength, and particularly moving laterally, so side to side. So a simple exercise for this would be something like a cable abduction and a cable adduction. Again, I'm not going to demonstrate this, but you can look these up on YouTube. Really simple exercise. You just grab a cable attachment around and lock it in around your foot, and then you're simply moving your leg, straight leg, away from the cable stack for abduction, and then you're pulling it towards the cable stack for adduction. And I would run through 2 sets of abduction straight into adduction on the same leg, 2 sets of 12 to 15 reps, once or twice a week, depending. So again, that's just targeting another area of weakness. Other things that a lot of people don't train is hamstrings. So most people with knee pain, even early on, can manage something like a hamstring curl. So either a seated single leg hamstring curl, if you got that in the gym, or a standing one, any variation of that. Again, I would go single leg, and I would do 2 to 3 sets of anywhere from 6 to 8 reps, just once a week, alongside all the other isometrics that you're already doing. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I would do from a weakness point of view. Oh yeah, some more glutes as well. So something like a single leg hip thrust is a really good option, or a double leg hip thrust. So you set up with your feet on the floor, knees bent, feet are underneath your knees. Your back is going to go on the bench, and you're going to drive up from that bottom position, squeezing your glutes. Again, it's hard to demonstrate this on stream. Just look up a double leg hip thrust or a single leg hip thrust with a barbell, because that's the easiest way to overload this. And again, I would do this once or twice a week, 3 sets of 8 reps, nice and heavy. I think that pretty much answers that one. Do my flat feet have anything to do with my sore knees? So this is a really interesting question. So on their own, your flat feet don't inherently have anything to do with your knee pain, but it can cause some issues. So if you have very, very flat feet, you will struggle to pronate your foot. And what I mean by that is, as you bend your knee, you should be able to close the arch of your foot. So you want to think about this. You can try it now. Just try in a staggered stance, try bending your knee. As you try to bend your knee, the arch of your foot should slowly close, and then as you straighten your knee, the arch should open up. So as it closes, that's what we call pronation. As it opens up, that's what we call supination. If you have very flat feet, you're already stuck in pronation because you haven't got much of an arch. And so this can be an issue, because then you struggle to bend your knee effectively. So what I would do if you had very flat feet is I would try open it up by creating more of an arch through some supination drills. Now, I can't go into those in detail again, but yeah, that's where I'd start. Some basic foot supination drills, and essentially it's looking at opening that arch, creating some supination, and then once it's open, then we learn to bend the knee and pronate and close that arch again. Next question. Recently picked up knee and shin pain from running. Where do I start? What do I do? So this could have quite a similar link to the question about flat feet. If you've got shin and knee pain from running, more than likely, number one, it can be a strength issue with some people, but more than likely it's more of a biomechanics and movement issue with how you're putting pressure through your feet when you're running, and if you're going through an effective gait cycle. And all gait is how we walk, how we run. Essentially, when you're running, are you going through all the areas of the foot? So are you striking through your heel? then is the pressure going into the middle of your foot, and then as you toe off, so as you push off to the next stride, is it going through the front of your foot? A lot of people will rush through this stage, and again, due to a lack of mobility in the foot, some people rush and they'll just go from heel to toe. Some people just hit it completely flat. There's lots of different issues going on, and so some quick and easy wins can be some simple foot mobility drills. So things like, if you look up foot clocks on YouTube, again, really, really nice, or pronation and supination drills to do daily. They can help open up a lot of space at the foot and reduce a lot of knee pain. I have been diagnosed with patellar tendonitis. What does this mean? Is this serious? So patellar tendonitis is a bit of an outdated term. All tendonitis is what we now call tendinopathy. And if it's happening at your patella, which for people who don't know is just your kneecap, then essentially what's going on a very basic level is your tendon is experiencing too much load. As a result of that, it's painful. And the reason usually it's experiencing too much load is because if you've been running a lot, if you've been squatting a lot, if you've been jumping a lot, so you've been loading the patellar tendon a lot, tendons adapt a lot more slowly than muscles. So as your quad and all the muscles around your knee get stronger, they get stronger at a much faster rate than your tendon. And so this is another reason why the tendon can be quite easily overloaded. So what you need to do initially is isometrics. Like I spoke about with that first question, single leg wall sit or a single leg extension hold. Once you've done those, then you also need to start loading muscles around that area in general. So actually all the exercises I spoke about when I talked about how to structure a gym session around knee pain, they'd all be perfect. Calf raises, hip thrusts, cable abduction, adduction, just generally building strength in the lower body without aggravating it further. And the other golden rule would be to decrease the amount of training volume or decrease the activity level of the thing that's causing or aggravating that pain. If you think of that pain score scale, 0 represents no pain, 10 represents loads of pain. If we can get your pain down to between a 0 to 3 out of 10, that's amazing. Keep it there, build some strength, and then that'll really help it out. Knee pain from heavy back squats, no idea where to start. So this could be a very similar issue, to be honest. If you've massively increased your squatting volume quite recently, and maybe you've gone from doing no squats to squatting 2 or 3 times a week quite heavy, this could well be patellar tendinopathy. So again, aggravating that patellar tendon. I'm not saying it is, I'm not diagnosing it, but it more than likely could be that. So again, it would be the same principles here. Isometrics to start to reduce the pain, then maybe some tibial rotations to get the shin bone moving, and then into accessory work focusing on other leg muscles, training other leg muscles that you can train without any knee pain, and building a lot of strength and stability. That's what I'd be looking at. Typically when I program with knee pain clients, what I'll do is I'll give them 2 heavier days in the week, which are slightly longer sessions at the gym, which are about 45 minutes, and then 1 shorter session in the middle, which is usually only 15 or 20 minutes, which is just some isometrics and some mobility work. And again, targeting all those different muscle groups that I talked about: calves, glutes, adductors, abductors, the main ones, to be honest, hamstrings as well, alongside your quad isometrics. And then when they start to feel good, then we can actually start to bend and load the knee with some split squats, things like that. Can limited hip mobility make knee pain worse? Yes, definitely. So if you have limited hip mobility, especially internal rotation, so if you imagine your femur, which is the bone between your knee and your hip, if that can't internally rotate well, then you will be limited in your squat depth and in split squats, things like that. And essentially, it's like anything. If you imagine your hip range of movement like your elbow, if you walked around and you could never straighten your elbow, you just walked around like that, then obviously it would get stiff and it would get quite painful. The same thing is happening at your hip. If you can't access full range of motion at your hip with internal rotation and it's stuck in a certain position, then it's going to get stiff, it's going to get painful, and then what will happen is a lot of the forces will then go to your knee instead of kind of being displaced in other places. So how do you improve that? Well, very simply, kickstand hinge that I talked about before. So learning to hinge, learning to lengthen through your glutes. Again, just look at the kickstand hinge on YouTube. Loads of people have done videos on it. I've done videos on it. It's really going to help improve that hip internal rotation. Other things you can do is learning to shift your pelvis well. So your pelvis is what sits on top of your femur. I haven't got the pelvis on that skeleton there, but essentially learning to hike your pelvis up and down, side to side, that can help as well. And also some gentle breathing drills. So just lying on your back, inhaling smoothly through your nose, exhaling smoothly through your mouth, just getting your rib cage, which I do have on that model, just getting your rib cage to expand and then compress nice and slowly. So a combination of those three things, some breathing drills, getting your pelvis hiking up and down, and then the kickstand hinge last. That would be a nice little sequence that you could do daily that would really help you out. Lovely. So that's all the questions I got for now. I'll jump on the stream tomorrow, same time, about 6 o'clock. If you are interested in working with me and fixing your injury or pain, just check out the top link down below.